Good afternoon and welcome to this episode of the Ad Drop Podcast. I'm your host, Terrance Biggs. Rivalry weekend is finally here. So much to talk about. You know him, you love him. He is America's favorite sports writer, the writer's writer, also the managing editor of Last Word on College Football. You know him, Tony Siracusa. Tone, how goes it, my man?
It is going well. It's going well, T Biggs. It's funny. I'm looking at the screen, looking at the camera, and realizing, man, those bags under my eyes take over at this time of year, man. Don't think I've been to bed before midnight, in well over a week. Saturday, Saturday I was covering a noon game, and so theoretically I was home, mighty early compared to, being out on a night game. And yet doing other articles and editing and then, watching games. Of course, we had one of our writers was down at the Rose Bowl for the Washington UCLA game and waiting for his piece to come in, which of course was happening on West Coast time while I'm living on East Coast time. And I think it was like 2:30 in the morning by the time I got to bed. So, and then still had some studying to do for the Football Writers Association conference call. So looking at this, I'm like, wow, man, got to do something about the bags under these eyes.
Wake has won four of the last seven games. I
Yeah,
mean, sorry, not
yeah.
four of the last, six of the last seven, basically.
Six of
And
the last seven. Yeah, yeah,
I just,
yeah. We published one this week about is Jake Dickert raising the standard at
yes.
Wake Forest. And, look, he's 8-3 right now, could go 9-3 if they beat Duke. And I think one of the things that brought up that topic was his refusal to take credit for any of it. I asked him on Monday at his weekly press conference, we understand every week you come in and your line is you're getting too much credit for what's going on. It's the players, it's the staff, and about as far as he would go is take credit for putting the staff together, for putting together his team of people, the right people at the right place, all the way from the general manager, Schrager, who came with him from Washington State, all the way down to the trainers, you know, um, and getting and that everybody's on the same voice, everyone's speaking the same voice, saying the same things. um, so he would take credit for that. But, look, Wake Forest has had two, and its history has had two seasons where they've won 11 games because they played in the conference championship game those 2 years and also won a bowl game. You put, and uh, one of those was Clausen's. Um, but then you put the last, I think we had calculated 62 years, and Wake Forest has had four seasons where they've won at least nine games. Aside from those two 11-win seasons, put those aside, four more seasons where they've won at least nine games. That's it, four in the last 62 years. They can pull that off Saturday in Durham against Duke and get to nine wins. Then, and of course, they'll be going to a bowl game, so can have an 8, 9, or 10 win season. But the point is, Dickert is now the winningest first year coach that Wake has ever had. There's never been a first year. There's never been a coach at Wake Forest who has won 8 games in his first year.
Most importantly, the Duke's Mayo Bowl is still on the table for you.
Oh, it is. It is. It is.
I was telling my fiance about it. She's like, "What game does Tony want to cover?" I'm like, first it was Fenway. Nobody wants to go to Boston in December.
Right,
I'm from
right.
Connecticut. It's not a good time.
Not in the middle of December. No, thank
Duke's
you.
Mayo is in Charlotte. It's close. It's a day trip.
It is. It literally is. It's going there in the afternoon and, getting there in time to set up in the press box, cover the game, cover the post-game press conference, and be out of there. It's funny because next week I'll be making that same trip. We'll be covering the ACC conference championship game. Um, and so it couldn't be easier. I mean, it's a night game and whatever, so you get out of there late, but whatever. It's a 20-minute drive home. I'm not going to complain.
You get to be in your own bed at night. You get the
That's
comforts of
right.
home. You can't beat that.
That's
And
right.
plus, it's not cold.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's not too cold. It's a little cold here now, but not too cold. But yeah, and it saves me the. I mean, you travel to cover games.
Hmm.
Everyone's got their habits, and I realize this is way off topic, but I'm sure when you check into the hotel when you're traveling for games, you've got your habits of what's important in that hotel room, and
Yes.
it saves me my neuroses because the first thing I do is turn down the temperature because it's always too warm in the room. Second thing I do is all the neat tidiness that the maid service has done, the housekeepers have done. I go undo it.
Same.
I have to untuck the sheets on the bed. They're tucked in really, really nice. And the thing is, I am so immensely claustrophobic that if I get into that bed with it all with the hotel room on the road and it's all tucked in, man, I get the shakes. Like
I have to get a
I can't exist.
I have to get a foot out and I have to be able to move. Like
There you
I
go.
can't
There
I
you go.
can't.
That's it.
It's a thing. It's and
It is a thing.
I look for a nice desk to be able to put the laptop on and be able
Sure,
to get
of
my
course.
to be able to write a backup story like a follow up. And
Sure,
it's
sure,
just
sure.
it's funny because going to Madison, all of the hotels when Wisconsin plays at home within a
Hmm.
30-minute radius, all the decent hotels are booked. The last time we had to go about 45 minutes outside, and it was nice. It was a small town. There was
Sure.
nothing around, but it was just Madison is a just it is it is crazy on game day.
You have a few cities across the country that are like that. That if you don't, on home game weekend, you can't get a hotel room if you don't book months in advance. Um, Virginia was like that. Charlottesville, it was family weekend, parents weekend, and a home game. And Virginia's having a great season. And there was not a hotel. There are about five hotels within 10 miles of the Virginia campus. And 2 weeks out, not a single one of them had a room. We were booking about an hour away because that's what was there.
Like going to hotels are it, I'm a comforter at home. Like I sleep better at home, like better in my own
Mhm.
bed because I know.
Sure.
And when I'm at a hotel, even going to stay with family members, I just don't sleep as well because like every little sound,
Yep.
it's just
I'm like
it,
that. I'm like that even at home, but still, it's you know, for the 3 to 3.5 hours at night I sleep this time of year.
that's exactly how that's how I feel, and that's it's road trips are interesting, and it's one of the best part of the business, the best part of the business. And before we jump into coaching news and game preview, I
Yeah.
will ask the the group chat question. I have a group
Oh,
chat with
okay.
a
Sure.
bunch of friends.
Fire
They're like
away.
10, 12 friends, and they're all sports fans, and they
Okay.
lean to me, and they're like, "Do you know?" I'm like, "I'm gonna ask the best writer I know this question.
Uh,
It has to do with podcasts, not this
okay.
one per se, but
Okay.
other ones. When you look at the proliferation of podcasts and like the number of
Hmm.
just coaches podcasts, player podcasts,
Hmm.
do you think that there should be a higher standard for the host of that show, considering that the general public considers them journalists because they discuss news and they break things down?
Well, I think part of where that's broken down, it's an interesting question. I think part of where that's broken down is the high number of former athletes who have podcasts now because you know and I don't know if he has a podcast or not because I don't watch it if he does, but I'm just throwing out a name as an example. Tom Brady has a podcast. Well, we're going to watch Tom Brady break down last weekend's NFL games because he's Tom Brady and he can break down the games. Um, is he good at it? Probably not. Is he well equipped to talk about things beyond that? Probably not so much. Um, but he's got a name. And so that carries it. You move on to other people from, and I'm going to use ESPN as the example. And because ESPN doesn't really cover sports news as much anymore, it covers sports talk. They have a bunch of talking heads who also have podcasts. And I'm thinking of the Stephen A. Smiths of the world. Um, and it's about yelling your opinion and getting stuff out there because they don't cover news. They don't cover sports news or like you do college sports news and college football news. They cover topics, which is not the same thing. Going on and covering a topic and not really breaking it down, but just shouting out your opinion on that topic has become the way to for a lot of those people to have podcasts. And ESPN has a lot of them because that's what they do. You know, that's what ESPN programming is now, right? I mean, it's less and less covering news. Sports Center is barely on anymore, and so it's interesting you point that out. One of my favorite podcasts, because I like to listen to podcasts while I'm at the gym in the morning, or when I'm doing the grocery shopping. Believe it or not, in this household, I do most of the grocery shopping because I do most of the cooking, especially during the week. I like to I need to be, here's what I want. I want that particular piece of meat, or I want this, or I need these ingredients to make this, whatever the case may be. So about an hour and a half on Friday, I allocate my time to go run to the grocery store, hit up Trader Joe's and get the stuff I need. And I'll listen to a podcast. My favorite podcast is called The Press Box. And it is by two guys who have been writers, have been in the sports media business, have been in the book publishing business, Brian Curtis and David Shoemaker. And it's extraordinary. It talks about our industry, but it doesn't talk about it in a way that is, um, here's how it talks about it. It's better to explain it this way. It talks about how the media covers things. How did the media cover this event last week? How did the sports media cover this? We've got, a meltdown at this publication. What's the fallout from that? So it covers the industry without being necessary that you be an industry insider to appreciate it or understand it. They make quite a bit of fun of certain elements of the media. They have a regular segment called The Worst Question Ever Asked in the White House Press Conference Room. um, and they have tremendous interviews with people in the industry. It drops twice a week. But the point I bring up as it relates to your question is these guys have been in the industry. They work in the industry. They know the industry. They know the people in the industry. So they're covering topics with depth and legitimate insight, not just rambling about their opinions. Matter of fact, you rarely hear them give their opinions. It really is just an analysis of how the media handles things, from sports media to news media to, magazines and books, a little bit of everything.
Like I listen to a couple podcasts. I listen to as a just a sports fan. Byron Scott has
Mm-hmm.
one of the most interesting podcasts.
Yeah,
Him when
I
he
don't
talks
listen
about
to it all the time, but I have listened to several episodes of it.
they had the Lakers trainer. I forgot his name. I would know if I heard it.
Gary Vitti.
Yes, and he was telling stories about how things were different back in the day. And it's important. Pablo Torre has a podcast where he currently has one where he discusses Riley Gaines, a former swimmer, and
Mm-hmm.
who is funding her
Yep.
ascension to talking head status.
Yep.
And speaking of, uh,
And Pablo's in trouble
yes, he
with
gets in trouble
with
frequently.
with yes, Pablo's in trouble with Bill Belichick's spouse equivalent.
Yes, And
And
she said she was suing him.
Jordan's upset and she's going to sue him. And look, was he wrong in his facts? It appears he was. And he's admitted that it appears he was. But Mrs. Spouse equivalent needs to understand you made yourself a public figure. So
Yep.
there's a different standard for the discussion that happens about you. Chose, matter of fact, not only did you choose to be a public figure, you pursued it, you wanted it, and so there's a different standard for what the media can and cannot say. And once he admitted he had some of his facts wrong, well, that's it. There's no lawsuit then. Done.
And she kept trying to hammer him, and then he
Yep.
apparently thought that she may have been uh using Photoshop in a couple of those messages.
Yep.
And that's a bad look for her. But my thing is,
All of it's a bad look for her.
if you are North Carolina's powers to be, why? Like you gotta
You
be
got to
pulling
be so
your hair out.
tired of this. You really do. You got to be so tired of this. But, look, it's interesting. They're not going to fire Belichick because they still think he can win there. We had long believed Belichick was using this as a way to get another job, but it is clear the NFL is done with him.
Yeah.
When you talk to scouts, who I talk to in the press boxes quite frequently because I get insights on players and what the thoughts are on some of these guys that they're watching. But I talk to them, because they know that I've never used any of their names in an article, so they can talk with me. They're like, yeah, I don't know of a team that's interested in bringing Belichick back. His last couple of years at New England showed that, yeah, he can win, but it's got to be under certain circumstances with the right talent. I mean, how did he do without Tom Brady? Not so well. And, if they're going to bring Belichick back, they want a coach who's going to win, period. You know, um, so it's there's no one in the NFL who's interested in him now. So North Carolina swung big to get the big name, and now they're stuck with him.
And I look at it where Belichick has done, I didn't think that his reputation would be able to take, or he would be able to tarnish it because of all the winning.
Right.
It's bad. Like,
It is completely tarnished.
I mean, he has moments where his daughter is yelling at his girlfriend and has to be separated.
Right.
And I'm like,
Right.
and it's a bad look for the school. And Bubba Cunningham has to be the one sitting back, like nodding, like I told you.
Yeah. Well, and he's retiring at the end of this academic year because he doesn't want any more part of this. He's done. He got overruled with what was one of the biggest decisions the school had to make in a long, long time. And he got overruled. He didn't want Belichick. And so, yeah, he's got to be sitting there going, whatever, man. About to become your guy's problem, not mine.
Do you think he'll stay retired, or do you think that he will find like
He'll go somewhere
another
else.
school? That's what I'm
Yeah,
thinking.
he'll go somewhere else. He's a good AD.
He is.
He's a good administrator. More importantly, he's a good fundraiser. He does well at the dinners where you got to shake a lot of hands and talk to a lot of people and get them to part ways with their credit card. He's good at it. So yeah, what would do well is not for him to try and reinvent what he's done at North Carolina and reinvent it at another major program, but go shake some trees loose on a G5 school. Go
Yes,
shake some money trees loose. You don't have to raise the bar to the same level because you're not going to, not at that level. But whatever kind of magic you can work, if it's 1/4 of what you did at North Carolina, you're going to have a huge success. I'd like to see him go to I don't know, a James Madison type of place, and shake some trees loose there for some money.
exactly. And it's just I look at it where Belichick, North Carolina, for the first time in a long time, is the fourth Power Five school in, or I guess a Power Four school in the state now. They're
Yeah.
miles behind Wake, miles behind NC State, and behind Duke. They're far behind.
Hmm.
Like,
They are. And it's a big deal here. I will tell you, it is a big deal here. It is always referred to as the Power Four rivals here, even when they're not powerful. It's the four in-state schools. You got, because you've got Wake Forest and Winston-Salem, and then the other three in the area known as the Triad, what the media always commonly referred to as Tobacco Road. By the way, there is no actual Tobacco Road. There is no road that goes through those areas. There are a few back roads that go through some of the farm areas and whatnot. But Tobacco Road is theoretical. And you can go from Winston-Salem and continue north on the same interstate, and you will eventually hit those cities. But Tobacco Road is theoretical. But that area is known as the Triad with those three in Raleigh, Durham, and Durham and Chapel Hill. And yeah, he's far behind everybody else.
and looking at it where and it doesn't seem like that's going to change because you have a coach in Dickert who is younger guy, more energy, but also wants to be there. Also, not just like
Mhm.
trying to wait for another.
Yeah.
Doran, I
It's
have no idea what's going to happen there, and it's just like, how
yeah.
many deals
I
will be
mean,
in there?
at NC State, they put up with a lot in terms of missing expectations every year, which Dave Doran does repeatedly. Um, every year at ACC Media Days, you get sold the bill of goods that, with who he's brought in at quarterback this year and with the offensive talent, um, that this is the year they're going to compete for the conference championship. They haven't competed for it since I've been here, you know. Um, you forget you look at some of these teams that are doing well. We had our second 3 hour long conference call with the FWAA All American Committee. We continue to narrow down our All American team. We've got 2 more weeks of doing votes by email and having conference calls and whatnot. And you look at, man, we're like Casey Concepcion. This guy is so good. He's having such a great year. He was at NC State last year. And he's being looked at like this breakout player. Well, he's not a breakout player. He just was buried under a pile of bad offense at NC State last year. Now he's a legit candidate for our first or second team All American as an all purpose player. And it's but this is what happens with Dorn. And Manny Diaz has had a very disappointing year at Duke. The expectations were much, much higher, but Manny Diaz is a good coach, and you tend to think he's going to be able to turn this around. Look, he had a good roster when Mike Elko left for A&M. So it's a little concerning among Duke fans, but they're not panicking over it yet. So yeah, to your point, UNC is way down the list right now,
And it's just to watch the half empty stadium, like the shot of half empty stadiums from
right?
just seeing the team just
And it's a beautiful complex.
very
It's a
been there,
great
love it,
stadium,
love Kenan Stadium, and the team is just they don't have it. Like it's not there.
right? Yeah, that's absolutely true. And there's already concern at UNC that they've got the wrong basketball coach, that Hubert Davis isn't the guy.
Oh, they do.
Um, and I would tend to agree with that. But when UNC disappointed in football, they could always lean on that basketball, and they're having a hard time leaning on that right now because the knives are out for Hubert Davis also.
Hubert Davis, from what I hear, is a decent guy. Just
Mhm.
he he kind of reminds me a little of Ron Rivera. Nice guy. Should be a head coach.
Mhm.
And speaking of
I think
Ron,
that's probably
Ron,
Ron Rivera, who just fired his head
yes,
coach over the
Justin
weekend.
Wilcox gets shown the door in Berkeley. Cal is a interesting job. It looked like it'd be a fun job because the expectations would be lower, but
Yes, they are. But here's the thing with Wilcox. Every year, when I was covering the Pac-12, when I came out here and was covering this, and then Cal became part of my world out here, every year that Justin Wilcox was back, the media would be like, "This interesting. Justin Wilcox is back. Justin Wilcox got another year. It's kind of interesting." I mean, 48 and 55 over 9 seasons. In almost
brutal.
any other place, he's fired 5 seasons ago. Um, he had 2 seasons, 2 winning seasons total in his 9 years. 2018 and 2019, he was 15 and 11 overall in those 2 years. So 2 winning seasons, and that was it. And then he was 6-5 this year. Cal's going to a bowl game, but they got hammered by a really bad Stanford team, and that was enough. He was already on that edge, and they got hammered by a bad Stanford team, and you can't lose that rivalry game repeatedly.
No.
And you know, Ron Rivera had seen enough. Like I said, we were a little surprised every year he came back, and I like Justin. He's a nice guy, kind of boring to talk to, but if you listen and really listen to what he's saying, you get some decent insights. Good defensive coach, probably a good defensive coordinator somewhere. Was almost never had a good offense in the entire time he's been there. So we're going to see some interesting, because now Stanford and Cal both have a head coach opening, which is a rarity for both of
Yes.
them. And you bring up a good point about the expectations at Cal. They're low. The funding for the program, the collective money or NIL money is not very high. But no one's asking you to win 9 or 10 games a year either.
Mm-mm.
They're asking you to win 7 or 8 every year consistently and go to bowl games and beat Stanford. That's it. Those
That's all you do.
those are the requirements. It's all you got to do. The stadium, they did renovations to Memorial Stadium 3, 4 years ago. It's fine. It's you know when they win, the crowd will go. They do show up when Cal is winning, um, and they just don't do it often enough. So we're going to see some interesting names that I'm not sure people on a national basis are really tuned into. I think we're going to see Tosh Lapoy, the coordinator, the defensive coordinator for Oregon. He
He
played
moved
at
down.
Cal. Yeah. So I think he's going to be a name there. I think Will Stein, the offensive coordinator at Oregon, is going to be a name there. Um, Sean Lewis, who was the head coach at San Diego State, um, also a candidate for the UCLA job, which is driving the UCLA fans nuts. They hate that because what do you mean all we can get is Sean Lewis? And I'm like, look, man, you got a dysfunctional administration. You got an athletic director who is getting sued by his own stadium and the city in which the school plays. Um, you've got you've got job openings at Penn State and Florida and LSU and Auburn, and those are big name places. You're not competing for the coaches that are being looked at for those jobs. You're just not. I think if UCLA and I will say, just kind of as an unintended segue, but I suppose it kind of works that way. One of the things that the UCLA fan base was warming up to was the idea of Jim Mora coming back. Mora was very successful at UCLA. His last 2 years were not good. He was going through personal problems, a divorce, life was ugly. but he had two 10-3 seasons at UCLA. And, as we were talking about UCLA and the Rose Bowl and the lawsuit and all those things last week, we talked about the lack of attendance. That place was getting 70, 75,000 a game every game during those years. The crowd will go when you win, and Mora was winning. He had two bad years, but he's got a better record there than Chip Kelly did, than Rick Neuheisel did, than Carl Durrell did. The last person to win at the level he did was the first 4 years of the Bob Toledo era in the late 90s. So it's been 30 years with nobody having the kind of performance that Jim Mora did. But now UCLA is feeling heartbroken because as you and I record this, Jim Mora is leaving Connecticut to take the Colorado State job.
We talked before the show started. You said that that was a great job for him. What makes
I do.
being in Fort Collins, well,
Collins.
it's better than Storrs, Connecticut, but what makes
Yeah.
Fort Collins such a step up from just a good move for more?
Most things are a step up from Storrs, Connecticut.
That's fair.
There's just not much there. Um, Connecticut remains an independent with really nowhere to go in terms of joining a conference. And so crafting a schedule, cobbling together a schedule every year is a challenge. You're not pulling in TV revenue. What you're pulling in is the money that other schools are paying you to play them. And Mora has done a good job at Connecticut, especially the last 2 years. But you got to think, well, there's the ceiling. Where else do you go? At this point, if you're Connecticut, you're waiting for the ACC implosion in 5 years to join a reconfigured, watered down ACC conference. That's doesn't really help you much, right? The basketball is, part of the Big East, and you've got a conference for your other sports, but not football. Colorado State has the resources. Colorado State is going to be part of the new Pac-12 next year with all the other state schools, San Diego State, Fresno State, Colorado State, Boise State, Sacramento State. Notice the trend here. Most of those are not actually states. Colorado State, Colorado's a state. Utah State will be joining that. Utah is a state. Most of the others are state universities, but they are not an actual state. And there is a TV contract now with the USA Network. It's nowhere near the size of, the Big Four, but it's more than any of those schools are making right now in the Mountain West. So there. You have the ability to do more with Colorado State than you did ever at Connecticut. You've hit the ceiling at Connecticut. What else are you going to do? Jay Norvell got a long leash at Colorado State. He was there a long time. And you look at the state landscape. I mean, what's Dion doing? Right? And we know Dion's got his health issues and all of that as well, but I got to think, I don't know how much longer Dion's staying, whether it's because of his health or he's looking for something somewhere else. Because life without Travis Hunter and his kids turns out to be kind of difficult to coach. And so there are opportunities at Colorado State that don't exist at UConn.
And I look at UConn as someone born and raised in Connecticut. Their stadium used to be on campus. It was like
Mm-hmm.
5 minutes from the library and
Mm-hmm.
stores. When I still lived there in the early 2000s, the state of Connecticut forked over $93 million. This was back in 2002. So it
Mm-hmm.
was $93 million to put a stadium 40 minutes away.
Mm-hmm.
So it's off campus. And they don't have a football identity. And
That's right.
they are as good as they will be right now. This is
That's right.
it. Like it is a basketball state through and through. When you have parades for men's and women's teams like together and they
Mm-hmm.
draw 15, 25,000 people through the streets
Mm-hmm.
in the cold, Football is not that.
Yeah,
More
when we talk about places that are basketball schools, like we were talking about North Carolina, this is not just a basketball school, as you just said, it's a men's basketball school and a women's basketball school, and a huge distance between that and football.
and I tried to talk. I was telling somebody, what the difference between the football and basketball. I'm like, the women's basketball coach, Gino Orieman has been there about 42 years.
Mhm.
He has lost 115 games. He's won over
Mhm.
1,200 games. That should
Right,
say that football will never have that because they're so
right.
far behind. And
There was a time when Gino was women's basketball. He and Pat Summit, at Tennessee. Now, of course, you got a lot of schools that have caught up. South Carolina, LSU, a lot of Notre Dame, Baylor. A lot of schools have caught up, but Gino and his UConn team was the beginning and end of women's college basketball for a long time.
I I have a quick story about Gino. Well, being from Connecticut,
Yeah.
and his son was playing in a 3-on-3 tournament, like a kids 3-on-3 tournament. I was asked to referee. Son just wouldn't stop traveling. I have to call that. The coach got upset. Okay, I let him talk. I'm like, you're gonna have to hurry this up. So he moved away. Next time, the son took like 6 steps without dribbling. Coach jumps up, like I already told you once. And coach says some magic words. You gotta go. I had to kick him out of a kids tournament. You're out. Gino steps up. Well, you can't do this. I'm like, Coach, this is in stores, and I'm showing you a lot of latitude, but we need to keep this a civil tone. You can't. I'm like, you too. Kicked him out too. I guess it was his wife and family. They stayed. Nicest people in the world.
Mhm.
They like,
Mhm.
Gino gets that way. Can you let him back in tomorrow? I'm like, yeah. So he comes back in. He's like, I said some words. I apologize. I'm like, Coach, I get it, but it's a kids tournament. This is for the children. It's not about you or
Sure.
me. It's about them.
Right.
So
Exactly.
rest of the tournament, not a peep.
Wow. That's funny. That's funny. I guess once you're a coach, you can't help it, right?
Right.
So yeah,
But
so the Colorado State job is filled, and now the Oklahoma State job is filled. And it's
yes,
funny because as that happened, I'm sitting there thinking, man, it feels like 2 seasons ago that Mike Gundy was fired.
yes.
He was the first coach fired this year. Well, Stanford because he was fired in the spring, but once the season started, Gundy was the first one to go, and man, that was a long time ago. I mean,
It's
that
a
was all the way back in early September.
it's an interesting move for Eric Morris because yes, North Texas is a G5, but
Mhm.
the facilities have been improved. They start pumping in more cash. It's in a great location. I'm not sure if I would go to Stillwater. I'm not sure if I would do that.
Well, and
But
because I don't know what the commitment is at Stillwater now, right? It was everything is named after T. Boone Pickens, and the money was there, and I know that his estate still puts money in, but I don't know. We're certainly not going to compare to what Cody Campbell is doing at Texas Tech.
oh no.
Um, we're not going to compare it to the booster money at a lot of places anymore. So I don't know what the commitment is. Look, Eric Morris has done a great job at North Texas. I think it's interesting. He wants to stay with the team through the end of the season. These guys could be getting the group of five bid for the playoff. And so I think that's an odd situation also. I've taken this other job, but I'm not leaving because we're going to the playoff. I wonder if they just go to a bowl game if he goes ahead and leaves, right? Because
Yeah.
we see coaching changes during the bowl season all the time. We've been
Yep.
seeing that for decades, right? Offensive coordinator gets a new job somewhere, so the wide receivers coach is the offensive coordinator during the bowl game. That kind of stuff happens, been happening for decades. Head coach leaves, offensive coordinator is the interim, whatever the case may be. So I'm wondering if that changes if they don't make the playoff and he winds up just going to a bowl game. And if Oklahoma State's like, all right, look, dude, we get it. You're in the Alamo Bowl, but I think it's time to start making your plans,
I,
for here because he's got a lot of work to do. But look, man, before North Texas, he was at Incarnate Word, where he had a young quarterback by the name of Cam Ward.
Ward.
They did all right. It turns out they went 10-3 in that 2021 season when the two of them were together. So, he's done all right. He is a Mike Leach protege. So we're talking big offense, big offense. We're talking putting up 40 plus points a game. It's going to take him a while before he can do that at Oklahoma State. Doesn't have the talent there to do that now, but that's the mark he wants to leave there.
The interesting part would be where his quarterback goes. Man, that's
Mm-hmm.
making the freshman because
Yep.
there will be teams who will be opening up the checkbook for him, and
Oh,
he has to
sure,
decide:
sure.
do I want to stick with the coach's system, or do I want to go play at another school?
Yeah, sure. Drew Mestamaker's thrown for 3,500 yards this season, 26 touchdowns. I think he's got 4 interceptions. I mean, he's having an amazing year. And so I do think that even if Morris stayed, Mestamaker's made a name for himself. The
Yeah,
opportunities would be bigger somewhere else. But I think this certainly drives that home even more now.
and one of the names that is chosen or thought of to replace Morris is Billy Napier. And
Right.
watching Florida fan is hilarious because they really thought that Billy was just going to be mad, go home, and collect his millions. Billy's like 44 years old, prime of his coaching career.
Billy's career isn't done. You,
No,
you may not think much of him as a coach, but he's not done.
no.
You're naive to think he was just going to go sit in the Barca Lounger and, you know, wind up on, the SEC network on their third broadcast team somewhere. It's not the way it's going to go. He wants to coach. We talk about this every week through all these coaching changes. The coaches are egomaniacs. And when they've been fired, they feel a compelling need to validate their name and reputation.
Yep.
And he knows that there's a platform in North Texas. It's been created by Morris. It's been built by Morris. And so he doesn't have to create from scratch there, right? He doesn't, he's got the foundation to work with.
It's it's and Napier from just interaction just seemed like a nice guy, not an angry guy. Just he just wasn't a good fit. But now
Right.
he goes to where his comfort zone is. There'll
Right.
be less
Now
expectations.
here would be something interesting also, because just before you and I started recording this, by the time this airs or you send it out, it'll be old news, but it's new news as you and I sit here that Alex Golesh is leaving South Florida to take the Arkansas job. What if Napier got offered the Southern Florida job or the USF job? Wouldn't that be interesting?
Considering who they
I'm
play
I'm
next
I'm
year.
not saying it's going to happen. I think USF is still so fresh licking their wounds because I'm not sure that Arkansas is that much better of a job than USF.
I
I
think it's the
really don't
same.
think it is. But yet Golesh left. I mean, he's 22-15 in his third year there. Wouldn't that be something if Napier went there? I think I'm going to root for that to happen. That'd be
Same.
funny. I think I'm going to root for that.
I like the chaos because
I
I like
love chaos. I root for chaos all the time.
because it would be
Big fan of
fitting
chaos.
because the first loss of the year in the start of their slide happening as
Mhm.
USF. So it's like
Right.
a full circle
Right.
moment for Billy. And
Yeah.
Golish, Hunter Yurchek, who we're about to talk about in a minute,
Hmm.
as an AD,
Hmm.
laments so much about the financial structure. And I think the Arkansas job is a lateral move from USF.
I do too. I do too.
Like the interest isn't there. They're not the
No,
Arkansas of
they're not getting the high levels of Walton family money, the Walmart money that
no.
you would think for the university in the state. You would think that they'd be getting more NIL money and financial support than what they are.
And they're not. And I think
Maybe
Golesh could
that's
have.
why prices are going up at Walmart. I don't
That's
know.
true.
They're trying to raise some funds by, that 20 pack of chicken breast is going to
Yes.
go up a buck a pack now because they need more money for
I think Golesh
Golesh's
he
contract.
he could have waited. He could have waited a little longer.
Yeah, I agree. There'd be other stuff. Look, there's still the Auburn job that's open and the LSU job. I don't know how much longer it's going to be open. The Florida job. Yes, yes, I said that because I think Kiffin is going to LSU. I really do.
Speaking of Lane,
Yeah.
I know we talked about Lane last week. It just
hmm
the more
We
this
talk
goes
about
on,
Lane every week because Lane forces us to talk about him. That's what Lane does best. He forces people to talk about him.
and you would think that he would be secure in himself as a coach, multimillionaire, successful in spots, but he wants to be a part of the conversation. And
Yes.
if he goes
because
out,
because he's an egomaniac, but not only is he an egomaniac, he's also a narcissist.
yes,
So that's a whole different level of challenge of issue. It like you put it perfectly. He wants to be a part of the conversation.
and if you're LSU and considering they will fire a coach at the drop of a hat,
The
but
governor will do it himself.
yes, and then he'll have the state's senior senator like back him up on it,
hmm
who's a literally
hmm
idiot. Anyway, but when you have Lane and you have LSU, if I'm Ole Miss, I know the Egg Bowl is Friday. I would
hmm
fire Lane today, right now. You got to go. Like, just
Yep.
go. You're
And
not gonna.
fire him for cause
You don't want to be
because
here.
he's openly looking for another job.
Yep. And
So
he could say, well, it was my representation. Who hired the
whatever.
representation?
Well,
You
not only
did.
that, but your representation isn't doing it without your blessing. If you wanted to stay at Ole Miss, you could tell Jimmy Sexton, don't, man.
Yep.
I'm good. I'm good.
And
Well,
the fact that his team is on the doorstep of a CFP, like if they win on
right?
Saturday,
They're going.
they're
They're
going.
in. Yep.
I don't think he should be the
They're
coach.
number 7 as of Tuesday night's poll. They win, they're going. That'll put them at 11-1, and there is no way to keep them out.
I don't think that if Lane somehow has a change of heart and wants to stay, even if I'm that coach, no, you had your agent looking around and talking while the team is on a run that they haven't had since winning the national championship like 60 years ago.
You got your wife flying around on Gulf Streams, looking at, the schools and whatnot. It's if you're if you're an Ole Miss fan, and like you said, right now having really almost unprecedented success, aren't you tired of Lane's act? Aren't you tired of it? You thought Lane had settled in. And we've talked about the documentary about him that Ryan McGee at ESPN did. And man, it seemed like he was settled in. And he's putting you through this. With the Egg Bowl, look, man, we ran a column this week about how just on talent alone, Ole Miss should wipe the floor with Mississippi State, but Ole Miss is pretty distracted right
Yep.
now. The football program is distracted. The fan base, they're not talking about the Egg Bowl. They're talking about Lane. Because anytime you're not talking about Lane, Lane hits Twitter. If he thinks you're not talking about him enough, he goes to Twitter and throws out some snark about somebody out there. No one's talking about the Egg Bowl. We got our Ole Miss reporter sitting down there. He's like, everyone's just talking about Lane. It's. I think if you're an Ole Miss fan, man, you got to be getting tired of this act.
It's frustrating. It's frustrating to watch because those players bought in. They
Mm-hmm.
have bought in. And now it's like that old saying, once somebody talks about being retired, they've already retired. Once you talk
Yeah.
about leaving the job, you've already left.
Yep.
Lane can't
Why
like
never talk about retirement? They're gonna have
ever.
to. The coroner's gonna have to come pick me up at the press box.
Exactly. I have one more deadline before the final deadline. And it's for me, it is Lane is you would think that he would have grown up by now. It's
Yeah.
embarrassing.
That's it. Grow up, dude. Grow up, man. Yeah, I agree. I look, they're still gonna win. They have too much talent, and Mississippi State has nowhere near enough talent to hang with them. But if it were even close, I would think if the gap between the two schools were smaller, I would think that Ole Miss could have some problems. They're not going to, and they're going to the playoff. Do you want this guy taking you through the playoff while he's got his family looking for jobs elsewhere?
Because what makes them think that Lane won't do this again next year,
Sure, sure.
even if he has a contract?
Even if he has a great playoff run, you know.
Ole Miss could get to the semifinals, and Lane will still somehow his name would enter the conversation.
About job opening somewhere else. Yeah.
Oh,
But then look, conversely, we're talking about a coach who's talking about leaving, maybe during the playoff. If you're LSU, how long do you wait? Right? Because you got recruiting to do, and we've got, I realize the high school recruiting doesn't matter nearly as much anymore, but you've got signing day in 2 weeks, or the early signing period in 2 weeks. Um, how long do you wait on Kiffin? I know he's the one you want, but how long do you wait for him to say yes before you move on and start dating somebody else?
that's my issue. Like when it comes to just waiting for Lane, and I mean, people are treating Lane like he's the second incarnation of Nick Saban.
Right.
Lane hasn't won anything yet.
Well, well, anywhere at any of his stops.
Lane wins press conferences.
Yeah. Let me ask you this while
Hmm.
we're on the topic of coaches and schools. Do you believe the rumor that Kaelin DeBoer could be a candidate at Penn State?
No,
No?
because I don't. It would be a several step drop, like a several back steps for him, because you're leaving Alabama, who is still Alabama,
Mm-hmm.
who will make the playoff because they probably will wipe the floor at Auburn this weekend
Mm-hmm.
for Penn State.
Yeah.
That means you got to play the combination of Ohio State, Michigan, Oregon,
Mm-hmm.
USC. I mean, that's Indiana. That's 4 or 5 games a year that you probably will lose 2 or 3.
But here's I think here's the other part of it. How long are you willing to live with the fact that you're not Nick Saban, and you know you're not Nick, but the fan base is reminding you on local talk radio every week how much you're not Nick? You're never going to get to that level,
No,
even with it being Alabama and all those resources, just because Nick was a generational coach. There isn't another Nick Saban out there. There will be someday. There will be another great coach who will do many great things at whatever school. The odds of it being Kaelin, and I like Kaelin. I know him and I talk to him and I like him. The odds of it being Kaelin are not high. Um, but just like Alabama had to go through all of the Mike DuBoses of the world, between Bear Bryant and Nick Saban,
Bryce.
you had all of those years of having to go through the other people, Mike Shula, all those people, right? Um, and yeah, Mike Price with the credit card. It's and so, but you don't have to be, if you go to Penn State, you don't have to be James Franklin. They fired James Franklin.
Yeah.
So you don't have to live up to James Franklin. I don't know. I don't think he goes either, but I'm going to tell you that if a miracle upon miracle happens and Auburn beats them in the Iron Bowl, there's a part of me that wonders if maybe this is his exit ramp.
I could see it. I mean, I could see it, or even a job like Ole Miss, like because it would be open.
Right? Yeah, that's true. That's true. The Ole Miss job will be open. I don't know if he goes for the Ole Miss job. It's not legacy enough.
True.
I don't know if you leave Alabama for Ole Miss. Ole Miss is doing well. Ole Miss isn't the legacy that Alabama or Penn State are.
True. Could you see DeBoer giving or UCLA possibly trying to reach out?
I think they should. I think you reach out, you make the phone call, you understand he's going to say thanks, but no thanks. Um, yeah, because you don't leave Alabama to go coach at UCLA with an AD who doesn't know if he's coming or going right now. No, you make the call, but there's I rarely say never, but in this case, I'm going to say never. Kaelin
And
wouldn't do it.
speaking of Alabama and
Yeah,
the Iron Bowl, we're just gonna, we're gonna spin through the games.
yeah,
Auburn has no chance. Like Auburn has a really good defense. They truly do.
mm-hmm.
So does Alabama. Alabama
Right.
has they have the ninth best defense as far as total yards. But I want to say 278 or something like it's a or 178, and then they don't. You can't throw on them because they
Nope.
have one of the biggest secondaries as far as they have a 6'4" corner, they have a 6'3" corner, they have a large court. Like they like playing press, man. They like to be able to get in the receiver's chest.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, one of the things that will cost Auburn, their offense line is terrible.
It is. It is. It is. And they've gone through a few quarterbacks now at this point this year, and you just don't. It's interesting. This isn't and we've said this a couple of times on the FWAA calls, the 20 of us who make the final determinations on the All American team. This isn't the Alabama roster that you see in other years where there are a couple of guys in the front seven on defense who are just so amazingly dominant. Um, or on the offensive line. I mean, yeah, you got Caden Proctor, and he's really good, and he's going to be a good pro. Is he one of the best in the country? Top 10, but top 10 doesn't always get you all American. It's but as a team they play well. As an offense they play well. Ty Simpson's having a terrific season. You look at who we were talking about as quarterbacks when the season started, right? We were talking about Garrett Nussmeier. We were talking about Carson Beck. we were, there was a long list of other players that we were talking about. Now we're talking about Marcel Reed, and we're talking about, Ty Simpson and Diego Pavia. It's certainly a different group. Um, but I agree with you that Auburn doesn't have the horses on either side of the line to stay competitive. I love the Iron Bowl. One of the great rivalries. I think we have made it clear that I am a college football geek. I like the geeky stuff. I like the rivalries and the bands and all the stuff that goes on during rivalry week. Love the Iron Bowl, but this ain't close.
And the Iron Bowl was the first Black Friday game,
Yeah, it was.
1974,
Yep, absolutely it was.
and Auburn was they had one loss. Alabama had they were undefeated and they ended up 11-1 because they lost the Orange
Right,
Bowl to Notre Dame.
right, right, right,
And it's
right.
just one of those things that Auburn, it's a good job, but
Hmm.
is it better than Ole Miss? No. Is it better than
No,
Florida?
not anymore.
No.
It used to be, but it's not anymore.
Is it better than Tennessee? Still no.
No, I don't think it is. While may not like the booster interference at Tennessee, um, it's it's Tennessee still putting their money where their mouth is.
And when you look at it, Auburn is kind of like Rip Van Winkle. Like they kind of fell asleep and
Mhm.
they woke up and everybody has surpassed them.
Yeah,
And everything's changed like when they were last
right.
relevant.
No,
So
it's
I
true.
I think Alabama wins by 2 touchdowns.
At least I can see Alabama winning by a good 18 to 20 points. Yeah.
Vandy and Tennessee. This I never
Yeah.
thought we would live to see Vanderbilt as a threat and one of the most exciting teams in college football,
Right?
facing Tennessee, who Tennessee's defense is it exists. It's just I think this Vandy team is on a roll.
Right. No, I agree. They're absolutely on a roll. Do you realize that Vanderbilt has been playing college football for 122 years, has never once won 10 games in a season? Never once. They're about to,
Yeah.
whether it's Tennessee or the bowl game, they're going to win 10 games for the first time in school history. Um, the game's at Tennessee,
Hmm.
and that should matter. I'm going to say I don't think it does this time. I really don't. I don't think that's enough. I think that I think that Vanderbilt has a way to own the clock and own the tempo with Pavia that takes away any momentum that Tennessee can put together on offense. Vandy doesn't have to slow things down. They just keep things moving. You just keep the chains moving. We've said this time and time again. Diego Pavia is not going to throw a bunch of haymakers out there. He's not going to throw a bunch of bombs and have, minute 30 long drives. They're going to grind the clock. He's going to have a high conversion percentage on third down because that's Vandy's offense. Um, and look, Tennessee held him to a subpar game last year. I don't. Pavia is a better quarterback now than he was last year. I also think Pavia is one of those young men who wears the chip on his shoulder effectively, and he remembers what happened last year. Um, I man, I think I think that Diego moving the chains the way he does, burning some clock, having those 5 minute long drives. I actually think Vandy wins.
I do too. I see Van. I just Tennessee's defense is just they're there to be exploited. Basically, if you
Hmm.
have Cutter Bully out of Kentucky throwing five touchdown passes,
Right? Yeah,
five.
yeah, yeah.
Javier
I mean,
is
and
winning this.
yeah, and you look at what Pavia did last week. I mean, he nearly had 500 yards, had five touchdown passes last week.
Hmm.
So it's, and granted it was against Kentucky, but that having been said, um, it's I actually like Vandy in this one.
I agree. Miami and Pitt. I think we should have the Mario Cristobal conversation.
Oh, let's have it.
There's an old saying how if someone takes something of a small value and turns it into a large value, they they make they make a dollar out of 15 cents.
Hmm.
Cristobal does the inverse. He makes 15 cents out of a dollar.
Right?
He has been blessed with NIL money. He has been blessed with
Hmm.
recruiting talent.
Hmm.
Miami is the villain in every movie who seem to have everything under control. That little weakness, that little thread, that little detail that he leaves unchecked gets pulled.
Hmm.
Everything unravels. Crystal Ball just this is his MO everywhere.
It is. It is. Yeah, we've talked about games, with Coach Instacart, where he loses games he shouldn't lose. This isn't one of those. This Pitt team is good. Pitt can still play right now with Georgia Tech losing last week, right? More chaos for the ACC. And what people didn't realize is now it's SMU and Virginia in the driver's seat to get to the conference championship game. They each have one conference loss. Ironically, both of them, their one conference loss is to Wake Forest. Um, but Pitt can still get there if they win, and if either Virginia or SMU loses, then Pitt winds up going to the conference championship game next week in Charlotte. Um, they Miami is caught up in the hey man, we're 9-2, and you have us four spots below Notre Dame, and we're getting hosed. And we beat Notre Dame way back in early September. Um, they don't talk about the two inexplicable losses that they had. Um, Frankly, not to get off track, but frankly, to me, BYU is the one getting screwed by the committee, not
Yep.
Miami. BYU is going to go to the conference championship game with the number 6 strength of schedule, and they could very well wind up missing out on everything. Anyway, back to Miami. Um, I think you've got this freshman quarterback at Pitt, um, Heinstell, who has played really well, 63% completion rate since he took over, thrown for 2,000 yards already. And you look at Miami's defensive line, and it should be better than it is. Ruben Bain, I'm going to tell you, Ruben Bain was a big topic of discussion on our All American committee calls because you and I have been over this. We don't just look at the stats. We look at where the stats came from, what games they came from. Ruben Bain in the critical part of the season, Ruben Bain is going to be a freak as a pro. I'm going to acknowledge that right here. He is a physical beast. Ruben Bain has exactly 5 tackles in the last 5 games combined. Ruben Bain has been turned into a non-factor on this Miami defense. Still a physical presence, but no impact. Um, and so while Miami should be better than Pitt, I'm not convinced they are. Pitt doesn't have their starting running back. Desmond Reed's out, but Boosie Turner turned in a 200-yard game last week. The game's at Pitt. I think Pitt wins.
I think Pitt wins too. I'll give it to Pat Narduzzi. Like he's built stability at Pitt.
Yes, he
It's not
has.
it's not always pretty. It's not pretty, but it's effective.
Nor is he in his in
This
his
is fair.
behavior and his speeches. Neither is he,
True, but
but
he wants to
but he
be
wins.
there, and he wants
Yes,
to
he
be there.
does.
I,
Yeah,
I
he
see,
does. Yeah, he
and
does.
I just
Yeah,
think that this
Narduzzi is not interviewing for jobs at bigger programs.
no, I think this loss will kind of further cement that Miami will have that great opening season or opening to the season, and then fall apart. This is their MO now, and
It,
they have
it,
all the
it,
resources
it
to do
will
better.
cement to me that you are who you are. This
Yep,
is as good as it's going to get. You're going to be 9-3, get a bowl win, be 10-3, and that's what you are. You're
like
you're a 9-3 team. You're a
they
nine
can't
and three program.
they can't be trusted to ascend to a high level until they actually do it.
Right. Totally agree.
Ohio State and Michigan. This
Love this game too. Grew
this is
up
going to be
loving this
fun.
game.
This is going to be fun. Ohio State, no matter what, they are in the playoff, no matter what.
Yes, they are. Yes,
However,
they are.
for some of those players on a visceral level, they want to win this game because they got embarrassed last year. Even though
Yep.
they went on to win a national championship, which supersedes everything else, that loss probably sticks with a lot of them
Ryan
because
Day
that's
has
all
dropped
Michigan.
4 straight to Michigan.
That's
I
all Michigan
mean,
has talked
man,
about.
if he hadn't won the national championship last year, if he had gotten knocked out in the first round of the playoffs, I don't know if Ryan Day would still be there. These two schools hate each other.
With a
It's
passion.
not it's not just a rivalry. They hate each other, and I am all in for that. Growing up, we watched the Michigan Ohio State game in the morning and then went to the UCLA USC game. And those two games, more years than not, decided who was going to the Rose Bowl. And so, yeah, every once in a while you got Washington in there or Iowa or whatever, but more often than not, it was these two games. So, I love this. I love this game. I think the difference right now is for all the talent that Ohio State has. Julian Sainz playing well. They've got the great receivers, assuming that, Tate plays this week and everyone's there. I actually think the difference is Ohio State's defense. I think Matt
Agreed.
Patricia's defense is just exceptional right now. And, you've got, is Michigan even going to have Jordan Marshall at running back? You've got a quarterback who really isn't performing particularly well in the passing game right now. So, and I think that based on the emotion and the games at Michigan, and these rivalry games, it matters more than any other game during the season. It's at Michigan. I think Michigan can stay close for a half, but I think Ohio State pulls away in the second half.
I agree. I think that they will, Michigan's offensive line will do well against Reese and Curry, but
Hmm.
in the end, it's too much. They can literally pressure you either one on each side or two together. Somehow they are going to get home, and they're going to wreak havoc. I see Ohio
Yeah,
State continue to roll.
yeah, I do too.
Texas and Texas A&M. This is It's funny. Texas has another great game, and people are lauding. I saw a piece from Yahoo Sports saying that this is why Arch Manning should be the number one pick in the
Uh,
draft. Well, like a month ago, people wanted to run him out of Austin on a rail.
right.
A&M, I don't think this game's gonna be close. I just see Texas A&M walking in and just rolling over them.
I do too. And this is the first time these guys have played in more than a decade, and it needs to be every year game. It was always part of my Thanksgiving weekend, going to my aunt and uncle's house on Thanksgiving, and my aunt was a University of Texas alum and significant donor, and she was all about her Longhorns, and this was always part of Thanksgiving weekend. Um, look, I mean, Texas is playing okay. They're kind of hanging around the periphery of the conversation for the playoff, but not really. Um, they're not going to beat Texas A&M. I mean, Marcel Reed is playing well. I think there's a little too much hype on Marcel Reed right now.
Yeah,
He's playing well. He's not playing great. He shouldn't be on anyone's Heisman ballot. Um, he's doing fine. But this Texas defense is 12th in the SEC in pass defense. That ain't good. It ain't good enough, people, not to stay in this game. Um, Arch has had a good stretch, 3 or 4, games in a row, good stretch. But we've been seeing this since the beginning of the season. Texas moves its way through games with some volatility, but there's no steadiness. There's no continuation of the momentum that they have, and so I think Texas A&M has a run game that shifts the way that you defend them. They're averaging 5 yards a carry, which is top 30 in the country. So I just don't think the Texas defense. You're not going to get a good enough game from Arch Manning to overcome what the Texas A&M offense does to the Texas defense. That's
exactly.
the way I
And
see it.
when I look at the Texas defense, I think of the game against Florida where
Mhm.
Lagway had three touchdowns, just long touchdowns, just bombs away. And for a mediocre passer, that is not good. When you knew what was coming and you couldn't stop it, literally, they knew what was coming and just looked clueless. And
Ooh, did I catch some flack about Legway on social media last week when I called him a decent G5 level quarterback?
well, you're not wrong. You are not wrong.
I don't think he's an elite level SEC quarterback.
He has
Sorry,
you
Florida fans. Dude belongs at a G5 school.
his next stop should be with a Napier at North Texas. He's from
There you
Texas.
go.
There you
Yep.
go. Lagway is he just caught fire last year and people thought that he'd be more. He is what he is. This is what he
Hmm.
is now. And
Yep.
I don't this his five-star like re his five-star like the recruitment rating just this makes me
He was one of those guys who was the best athlete on the field. So he threw the ball, he ran the ball, he returned kicks. He, did everything short of, serve the popcorn at halftime. Because at a lot of these schools, when you're the best guy on the field, you do everything.
he has not
Um,
progressed.
no, no, he really
And
hasn't.
he's had enough chances, enough time where you literally have an offense at Florida where you have injured receivers, but you still turn up with another speedster. You can't find him because you want to throw five interceptions to LSU. It's
Yeah, exactly.
but Texas, going back to Texas, I think Texas loses game by 10 points.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's about right.
Now, Georgia and Georgia Tech, probably the most civil game as far as a rivalry.
It is. It is. Having grown up with the UCLA USC rivalry, I tell people, are your statues on campus under assault during rivalry week? Do you have to cover them up and put 24-hour security guards around them? If not, then it's a very nice civil rivalry.
And it's just Georgia, despite a lack of a pass rush, they still have Gunnar Stockton. They have,
Mhm.
I want Georgia Tech to win because that would mean a lot to their program. It would be
Sure.
it would be an accomplishment for Brent Key. I just they would have to play near flawless football to beat Georgia, and I don't see that happening.
I think the offense can stay with Georgia. I really do. I think Haynes King, like the guy by this time every year is just banged up from the beating he takes because he runs so much. But he's the best running quarterback in the country. He's got almost 1,000 yards rushing on top of his passing yards. He's got 15 rushing touchdowns. My problem here of trying to find a way to pick Georgia Tech is that Georgia Tech's pass defense is non-existent. It's fallen off a cliff. Um, I mean, they nearly lost to Boston College because of the passing game, Boston College's passing game, which isn't that good. Um, Pitt's quarterback Heinstell went off on Georgia Tech a week ago. So, Darian Mensah at Duke, who is as hot and cold as your faucet in the kitchen, went off on Georgia Tech. Their pass defense is non-existent. So I think Gunnar Stockton puts up big numbers against this
Agree.
pass defense. I think Haynes King keeps him in the game for a while, but I think this is bombs away for the Georgia offense this weekend.
Agreed. I see it being Georgia by 8 points.
I think probably more. I think
Thanks.
they throw in another touchdown in the last couple minutes to, add to that and put it away.
Now, with Thanksgiving being when this was released on Thursday, which
Mhm.
is tomorrow,
Mhm.
what is your favorite and least favorite sides?
Ooh. All right. Well, my least favorite side is easy. Don't put that green bean casserole in front of me because I'm going to someone else's house at that point. There is no such thing as a good green bean casserole. And I'm talking about the kind with the cream of mushroom soup and the little what the fried onions on top or what. No. It's ironic because I asked Jake Dickert, I said, since we talk about this stuff from time to time, what is the go-to when you're having Thanksgiving dinner with your family, your wife and kids? What is the go-to food for you? And he said his wife's green bean casserole. He called it elite, which puts his wife's green bean casserole in the same category as his defense, his trainers, and I'm going through the list of things that he's referred to as elite. He's putting his wife's green bean casserole in there. The go-tos. Got to have the cranberry sauce, and I'm talking the kind in the can. Just open up the can and the ocean spray can or whatever, and get it out. That is got to have that. I will pile on that and the mashed potatoes, and yes, I am a huge fan of pumpkin pie. Big fan of pumpkin pie. Yes. One, I like pie better than I like cake.
Same.
So, yeah, big fan of the pumpkin pie. And someone last night was like, pumpkin pie is fine, but I'll take the pecan pie. Hey, I'll have some of that too, man. Yeah, if that's in front of me, I'm gonna eat some of that. Doesn't matter which one you want to put chocolate pie, you know, coconut cream, whatever, man. Yeah, apple pie, you put it up there. I'm eating it. It's good. So yeah, those are the must-haves. And they
Being
must not have.
the Mrs. being a proud Southerner, is she a pumpkin pie or a sweet potato pie
No,
or a pecan pie?
she's a sweet potato pie kind of gal. Yes. Yeah, she doesn't like pumpkin pie at all. She is most decidedly a pumpkin pie. I mean, a sweet potato pie kind of gal. Yeah, no question.
The best person in the world. One of my favorites. Just I agree. I am a sweet potato person.
Hey, she's the person who will, like, when I go to the store, make sure I pick up a couple sweet potatoes just for her to put in the oven and, eat for lunch on a weekend day. Just eat the sweet potatoes right there, with the see where I grew up on the West Coast. We're like, sweet potatoes. You mean yams? That stuff you put the marshmallows on top of? Whatever. The but yeah, living here, she is knee deep in being able to get the sweet potatoes whenever she wants.
Hey, I mean and they're actually good for you.
So I've heard.
Now, are you pro turkey or anti turkey?
I'm pro turkey on Thanksgiving, maybe the day after. Beyond that, I don't have a lot of need for it. I mean, I'll have the occasional turkey and whatever, provolone sandwich or something once in a while, but I'm not that person who lives off the turkey for, the next 3 or 4 days because after the second day, I'm tired of it.
That makes sense. I am a fan the day after Thanksgiving, taking a sub bun, slicing it the regular way,
There you
putting
go.
on a little bit of the dressing, putting
Mm-hmm.
on some turkey, a little mashed potatoes there, cranberry sauce.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's your sandwich. It
Right.
is.
Okay. But now, are you dressing or stuffing?
I grew up on the East Coast. In my house, it was stuffing. My
Mm-hmm.
grandmother grew up in Georgia. I'm engaged to a Southerner. It is dressing now.
It is. It is now. Yep. I grew up with stuffing, but it is most decidedly dressing now. No, no question about it.
And my fiance, she makes a stuffing. It is, to borrow Jake Dicker's term, elite, where it's a combination of spices and all that stuff, and
Hmm.
sweet and spice or sweet and hot Italian sausage.
Nice.
It
Nice.
is stunning. Oh, the first time I have it,
Nice.
it just it makes the meal. That deviled eggs is
Hmm.
just I'm
Yep.
a fan. Just and she'll be
Nice.
making them. She'll be making them tonight. I'll be looking in the fridge and kind of walking through. She'll ask me a question, and
You already have the plans for tomorrow. You've already
yes.
scoped out what part of the meal is yours, you know?
Now with Black Friday being so many games,
Yes.
we didn't talk about the Wisconsin game against Minnesota because no one cares. But it when we look at football,
Hmm.
what would you say looking back before we get into championship week, which is next week,
Hmm.
is the one moment that you will take away from this year that's like, you know what, that made this year different for you?
Wow. That's a tough one. And I'm not sure that I can pick a moment, but I can put some storylines, I would say, that I think Texas A&M is a storyline because being on the fringe for so many years, and they hire Mike Elko, and those of us out here knew Mike Elko really well from his time at Duke, and we were like, wow, that's a better hire than what most people realize. And you look at what he's done already. Um, I think Marcus Freeman is one of the storylines. Yeah, Notre Dame is a storyline, but I think Marcus Freeman is a storyline. He has done or is doing everything at Notre Dame that Brian Kelly couldn't do and what caused Kelly to leave, saying, I've capped out here and I'm going to LSU. And it turns out you can do it if you're the right guy. And so I think Marcus Freeman, and I have 0 sense Marcus Freeman is looking to take one of the openings somewhere else, anywhere else. Um, there's a lot of pressure at Notre Dame, and he seems totally fine with it. He seems comfortable with it. So I think that's one of the storylines. I think all the early coaching firings is a storyline for the year. there are more coaching openings than there are elite level coaches to fill them. Um, I think those would be some of my top ones.
Mine would be Drew Messmaker out of North Texas because
Yep.
here's a guy, the starter got hurt. He's a true freshman,
Yep.
not regarded, 0-star recruit, all that. Decided to just, I mean, get on the field and just show the world his talent, and he's gonna possibly cash in. No, normally I understand, the process with the portal NIL, but this is a kid that can't help but to root for. Just the simple fact that built himself from nothing, as far as
Hmm.
nothing on the radar of evaluators and scouts, coaches, media
Hmm.
types, and
Agreed.
he's gonna make himself a ton of money, and
Absolutely.
he has his future in his hands. And just
Yeah.
hearing him talk, looking at how he speaks in interviews, he is grateful,
Hmm.
where he doesn't take it for granted, where he went in with the hunger. So you know what? He was just happy to be on North Texas like as a backup.
Right. 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 No, it's a great storyline. I think that obviously, um, the system, the process, the bowl committee doing what they do is part of the story. It got swept under the radar. The deadline to change to change formats for the coming years was supposed to be December 1st, and the bowl committee gave themselves another month to figure out whether they want to change for next year. The deadline is now like mid-January. The point was they needed to tell their TV partners what was going to be happening next. And apparently there wasn't really much of a hurry after all. So they've given themselves until mid-January to figure this out, which tells me that they're going to expand and they're going to change. They're buying themselves more time to do it.
I think they'll probably end up going to 16
Yeah, I think
teams.
so.
That's a
Don't need
lot.
it. They don't need it. There aren't 16 teams who can win the national championship.
No,
There aren't 12 who can win the national championship, but
I,
here we are.
I just don't want to see six SEC teams. I don't want to. No one wants to see
I'm
that.
going to.
I
I'm
know.
going to. When they go to 16, we're going
Yep.
to.
Because Greg Sankey is going to get his way, but I
Yep,
still want
always
him.
does.
True. I want him to have the same energy after three or four of his teams get knocked out in that first weekend as he does going in. Like,
Yep.
I want him to find his way onto a set of game day, Fox Sports, whatever. Answer those questions. What happened to your teams?
Yep,
Or is
exactly.
this a reflection of your conference?
Right, right. And some parity across the country now that we
Exactly.
got lots of schools spending lots of money.
Exactly. So how can people interact with you on social media and what's coming up on Last Word?
Last word, we've got, well, you can go to lastwordonsports.com and you can click on the college football link. We've got Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and Blue Sky. We've got our Heisman poll. We're almost at Heisman time. We've got the bowl projections on Wednesday afternoon. So I know you'll want to look at that. We're previewing a bunch of these games this weekend. If you do want to interact with me on social media, be patient. I got a lot of committee votes and FWAA votes and things like that, and it sounds self-involved, but you know what, man? At the FWAA, we take the stuff really seriously. There are five, just for a quick minute, there are five confirmed All-American teams confirmed by the National Football Foundation. Um, any site can put together an all-American team, but there are five accredited is the really right way to put it by the National Football Foundation. See if I can get them all. The Walter Camp Foundation, which is the oldest, FWA, which is the second oldest, the Sporting News, the Associated Press, and the Football Coaches Association. Those are the five. It matters because you have to be an All-American on at least one of those five to ever be eligible for the College Football Hall of Fame. If you're not on one of those five, doesn't matter how good your stats were or whatever, you will not be in the Hall of Fame. So we take the stuff seriously. There was one guy who was going to be in the College Football Hall of Fame one day who almost didn't make it. He only got on one of the 5 All-American teams, Trevor Lawrence,
Oh,
because it was also at a time when we had Jalen Hurts and Justin Fields, and there were a lot of good quarterbacks. He made it on, I think it was the AP. So anyway, we take this stuff seriously, and we've got in our finalists for the Outland Trophy and the Nagurski and things like that. And like you, I'm on a bunch of other ones. I'm on the Lombardi. I'm on the Broyles for the best assistant coach. I'm on the Bear Bryant for the best head coach, the Bolitnikoff, the Maxwell. So if you want to reach out to me on social media, I am happy to engage. It's at Tony Bruin. Just be patient.
as always, Tone, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Ad Drop Podcast.
All right, man. Be well.